Welcome to the Ask SQL Family podcast. This is episode number 23, and our guest today is Amit Bansal.
Amit Bansal is a SQL Server Specialist at SQLMaestros. He leads the SQL and BI practice with a much-focused team providing consulting, training and content development services to more than 160 customers globally. He frequently speaks at international conferences including Data Platform Summit, Microsoft Ignite, SQLBits, PASS Summit, SQL Saturday events across the globe. Amit is also honored with Microsoft Regional Director status, MVP Award and Microsoft Certified Master of SQL Server credential. Amit has been working with SQL Server since 1999 and has been part of countless mission-critical SQL deployments. Performance tuning in SQL Server is his core area of expertise. Hi Amit. Thank you for accepting our invitation to the podcast, Ask SQL Family.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's very kind of you to have me for this podcast.
Absolutely, it's our pleasure. At the beginning, could you tell us what is your full name and where do you live?
My full name is Amit Bansal, and I live in India. And in India, particularly, I work out of two cities, Bangalore and Calcutta.
Mm-hmm. And what are you doing for a living?
I am running a company, basically as a director of a company by the name eDominer Systems Private Limited, and under which we have a couple of brands. I particularly take care of SQLMaestros, which is our brand related to doing a lot of work around SQL Server and Microsoft Data Platform, consulting and training and content development, and of course performance tuning assignments. And another part of my work is the community, which is Data Platform Geeks.
How did you start working with SQL Server?
So the story about working with SQL Server goes back many years. I started my career as a developer. I used to do Visual Basic programming. And if I remember correctly, it was Visual Basic version 5 in, I think, year 97 or 98. And we used to store our data in SQL Server version 7. I did probably my first project with 6.5, but very quickly moved on to version 7.0. And in fact, in that year of 97, 98, I had absolutely no knowledge of SQL Server. We just used to use SQL Server to store data. All we knew that there is a database there and there are some tables. And we used to just put data inside and take it out. And because we were all like application programmers doing a lot of front-end coding. But then as our project size grew and data size started getting a little bigger, and of course there were some performance issues that were coming in, there was no one in our team who knew how to tune SQL Server databases or indexes.
No knowledge about indexes, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. No knowledge about indexes. I didn't even know what a B-tree structure is, to be honest, 20 years back. And yeah, there was a good opportunity there, and I took up the challenge to learn a little more about SQL Server. That's where I think my formal training with SQL Server started. It was all self-learning. I picked up a few books and then books online and whatnot. In those days, with SQL Server, there was a books online which used to be locally installed, and you could read a lot more about SQL Server. That's when it all started. Yeah.
And what the new steps you made? Like you started reading those books, learning something, and you take some courses, trainings, conferences maybe?
No, that was very early in my career to really even think about conferences. Honestly, in those years, I didn't even know what a conference is. For as a matter of fact, because living in a city like Calcutta, which and in those years India was not so tech savvy, and the IT story that we have in India today wasn't there 20 years back. So I didn't even know what a conference is. So, and there were no courses formally offered by companies out there. There were no such training institutes that would probably teach SQL Server. So it was all like learning buy those books online, which were locally installed when you installed SQL Server, on your computer. No laptops though that time, it was computers. And yes, so we read by modules and practiced a lot of examples, and then what indexes are, what B-tree structures are, how the data is pulled out, and reading a little more about relational engine and the query processing engine, etc. And that fascinated me so much that I left Visual Basic Programming and I started focusing more on SQL Server.
So you started with Visual Basic?
Yes,
Which
absolutely.
version?
VB5, Visual Basic 5.
5, oh.
Yeah.
Nice, I remember.
Yes.
I started with Visual Basic 6.
Yes.
We are presenting around the world, and I would like to ask you about the Data Platform Summit conference. How it looks like comparing to the other international events?
Yeah, so Data Platform Summit is very close to my heart. I, of course, conceptualized and architected the conference along with my team members. And how I would compare is it happens in India. So, of course, the cultural differences are always there with compared to US or compared to SQLBits happening in the UK and our conference happening in India. But apart from that, the overall the format is same. We have pre-cons, we have breakout sessions, and of course, so there's so many things that are similar to begin with. The pre-con format, the breakout session format, but we do a few additional things like we do chalk talks and open talks. We brought in these new learning formats, like chalk talks and open talks are like roundtable discussions, and chalk talks are no laptops, just whiteboarding and trying to explain a concept over with the whiteboard and the chalk. That's why we call this as a chalk talk. So these new learning formats had been really very well appreciated by the community. And of course, our conference is not as big as Past Summit or SQLBits, but we're slowly getting there. Year by year, it's getting bigger. This year is the 5th year. Last year in 2018, we kind of touched close to 1,000 delegates for the conference. So hopefully we'll make it bigger this year.
Nice. So also you are speaking a lot, yeah, across the whole world, yeah. How are you preparing yourself for a speech?
So, just like any other speaker, I would focus a lot on the content while preparation. Thankfully, the audience calls me a natural speaker. So this is I don't take the credit for it. It is God gifted. Being a natural speaker is a God gift. So I'm very thankful to God that He made me a natural speaker. So I don't have to struggle a lot to get onto the stage to get to speak. But the content that you're going to present, that should be rehearsed. So I do spend time in preparing good content for my sessions. I focus less on PowerPoints because people really want to see things in action. And I believe content is king. So if people are spending, for a pre-con, let's say people are spending a whole day with you, 8 hours, they really want a lot of rich content.
Yeah, they expect something, hot.
Absolutely, they expect a lot in pre-con, especially when audiences pay for extra for pre-con, so they would really expect a lot. And so a lot of preparation goes into pre-con. Preparing all those demos and testing them again, and they work fine. And because my specialization is inside SQL is performance tuning, query tuning, troubleshooting, many of my demos are very unpredictable in nature because I try to simulate huge workloads with large databases, and they may not always, for whatever reason, run exactly the way I planned them to run. So a lot of testing has to be done, and I have to make sure that they run really well on that final day. So I spend a lot of time on demos and on the content. And for breakout sessions, things are a little, what happens is when you are used to spending whole day, when you rehearse a whole day's content, then breakout sessions become a little easier because it is 1 hour or 75 minutes or like SQLBits, maybe 50 minutes. So it becomes a little easier.
So you're starting with the notebook, let's say, and then you are just writing the idea for the session, and then you are building around that all of the demos, all of the session. Is it correct?
Yes, absolutely. So I'm taking down notes and what am I supposed to do step by step, and that's pretty much. So I'm a little old school, so I have a diary and a pen. So first I do that, like a rough sketch, and then I formalize it, and I use OneNote and I take my notes there.
What about the changes, last minute changes? So you are just before the session and then some bright idea just came into your mind and then you think, okay, it will be worth presenting. Are you including that into presentation or you are trying to avoid?
No, I avoid doing any last minute changes. It hasn't really happened with me that I just get a very bright idea before the session. I'm constantly thinking about the existing content that I have to present. So it doesn't really happen with me. But if at all it ever happened or if it happens in future, I will not try to tweak the content on the fly so quickly, because that may disturb my flow and it may not work. Wouldn't take that much risk. Yeah.
So you had the pre-conf here at SQLBits. It was yesterday or 2 days ago?
Yes, it was on Wednesday. Yeah.
It was amazing, yeah?
Yes, of course.
Tell us something about it. You had a lot of attendees on your session.
Yes, I had close to 70 people, and thanks to SQLBits organizers for giving me an opportunity. This was my second time I was presenting a pre-con at SQLBits, and the crowd was, of course, huge, and the audience was wonderful. They were very patient and they interacted so well, and I mean, it was amazing to see that everyone who came in the morning stayed till very end of the pre-con, which is wonderful. And something happened which was so unprecedented. I got great feedback on my LinkedIn when I posted the group picture. So many people connected and they posted some wonderful comments. Yeah, so the pre-con went really well. I, of course, before delivering this pre-con here, I've delivered it a couple of times earlier in other conferences like Definity and our own DPS and even SQL Saturday events. And in fact, this one-day pre-con is actually an extract from my masterclass. And my masterclass is like a 40-hour, very intensive, deep dive, comprehensive training on performance and troubleshooting. So I took out the best parts, the best demos from there, the more relevant and common issues that people see, and I packaged them into this pre-con. So the pre-con was, I think why I got such great feedback for this pre-con was because from the word go till the very end, it was all demos. It was all demos. Even some concepts that I had to explain, where I sometimes think a PowerPoint slide could have been better, I still did not use PowerPoint, and I put those bullet points and notes as comments in my T-SQL file and stored them in Management Studio. So people were just looking at code all the time, and there was demos. And I think that kept the entire session so alive and so intrigued by the demos.
And it's easy for you. You don't have to switch between applications, yeah?
Yes, of course. It's just double-clicking the SQL file and opening it in Management Studio.
I've been on your website, and on your website there's in the menu blogs, there's 3 blogs in there. So which one is the most popular, or which one you are writing in?
Okay, so I used to be a very prolific blogger of some time back. So I used to, of course, I started writing SQL blogs first, but then there were a couple of topics that I started writing about. A little bit about professional development, public speaking, presentation skills. And because I was traveling a lot, I started writing 1 or 2 blogs about travel tips. But I didn't follow it very religiously, and I because of a lot of travel and work, I was not able to maintain a consistent writing schedule. And then my blog kind of slowly died down. And now a lot of people do visit blogs, but they see that old content that is up there. I want to get back to writing again, because that is still the most popular way of how people search for knowledge and constantly read on the go, whenever they're traveling and they're in their offices. But recently I started recording a lot of videos, Yeah, so another thing which I saw that because my demos are so liked and they were so helpful, so I thought, why not record short videos? And I started recording them, and I have put them in our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/SQLMaestros. And there are like bunch of videos. So whenever I get an opportunity, I record 10-minute, 15-minute video of a SQL concept with a demo, and then I put it up there. But yeah, doing video work here would not mean that blog is not important. I think blog still has a precedence over videos.
Yeah, but the videos is just a new form of the content, yeah?
Yes,
it's even easier for people to watch it.
Absolutely, it is easier, and because the internet is becoming so wide usage, and with all these new smartphones and YouTube apps, watching videos has become very convenient. So a few years back, when you travel by train, you would only see people with newspapers, and now there are no newspapers. People are with their phones, and their headphones are on. And of course, few years back they had those headphones with wire. Now they're all Bluetooth and wireless phones. So yeah, video is becoming very, very popular. In fact, our channel, and I started it a few months back with zero. It's just touching 3,000 subscribers now in just a short span of time. But I still believe that lot of community folks have given me feedback that why am I not blogging? So even though they're watching videos, I really want to get back to blogging someday.
How much do you travel? Because you mentioned that a lot. What means by a lot?
So sometimes the travel schedule gets very bad. I mean, it gets really crazy. So here is a very recent example. I started from Calcutta and went to Auckland via Singapore for the Definity conference, and then after I had a pre-con and breakout sessions there, and from there I traveled to Wellington to participate in SQL Saturday Wellington. And Definity was organized by Reza, and SQL Saturday Wellington by Anupama, and I had pre-con and breakouts there. And then, in meanwhile, my pre-con here in SQLBits was added as in the second round. So I, of course, wanted to take this up as well. So I decided I will fly from Wellington to Manchester. So it was Wellington to Auckland, and then Auckland to Doha, and then Doha to Manchester with all the stopovers and halts. It was almost 2 days, almost 46 hours, which time zone God knows, but it was crazy travel. And then I'm going back to India now, but then immediately after I go next few days, then we all go to MVP Summit in Redmond, MVP and RD Summit. So so to see if you see the whole 2 months are all gone in travel this way. Yeah, that's how crazy it gets. But then after the MVP RD Summit, there will be a bit of staying at home.
That must impact your private life a lot.
Yeah, it does. So I'm very thankful to my family, my wife, my parents, my brothers, sisters, and of course my kids. They cooperate so well. They support so well. I think without their support, it would have been difficult to really pull off doing so much work and travel. It's nearly impossible. Family support is very critical.
Yes.
How about work-life balance? You have mentioned about your family, about the work, and then how you find the balance between both.
Yes, so I think it's the same problem like all of us face, and nothing uncommon with me also here. Sometimes work really gets very hectic, and family life does suffer in the role that you are, because we are just not doing a 9 to 6 job in our role, because we run communities, so people look up to us. We are community leaders. So when you become a leader and you are running communities, there is some kind of an implicit commitment that you have towards them. When you, apart from your day jobs, when you're organizing free events and webinars, and then these events happen on Saturdays, right? And Saturday, Sundays are supposed to be family time. So there's a lot of this commitment that that you have to fulfill, and it comes in between your family life. So there is that sacrifice there. But then it's a passion that drives you, and these are things that you do that make you happy. Like for example, in India, when we do these data platform day events, which are very similar to SQL Saturday events of PAS, so we do these DPD events, as we call it, under Data Platform Geeks. And in an event, you see like 200, 300 people turning up. That's amazing. That feeling of seeing so many community folks who are working on SQL and Microsoft Data Platform, and then you deliver sessions to them and they talk about their problems and we network with them. That's amazing. So you love doing that, and you see that day happening, and that keeps you driving.
Tell us about your MVP journey.
So I was awarded as MVP in the year 2007. So it has been now 12 years, and I think just like anyone else, I started SQL community activities in 2004. So it started from Calcutta, where I did the first SQL user group meeting, probably in India. I don't know if that was the first one ever. And we had just seven people in that small user group meeting, and then it started from there. And then of course one event got converted to 2 events, and then 2 to 3. And when I say events, it wasn't really an event; it was just like a small meetup where a few people are just coming together. And then it started getting a little bigger. And because I was doing some training during that time along with Microsoft for SQL customers. Then I used to travel from to different cities like Bangalore, Bombay, and Chennai, Hyderabad. These are pretty big cities in India, and a lot of IT setup there. So whenever I used to do these assignments, Monday to Friday, I used to stay over for another extra day and organize these meetings on Saturdays. And it was just like word of mouth, because there was no social media at that point of time. There were no Twitter, or I don't know even if Facebook ever existed then, no LinkedIn, no Facebook, nothing. So it was just like word of mouth to Microsoft and a few customers that, hey, we're doing a group meeting here on SQL. Why don't you guys come over? It was just as informal as that, no formal registration.
It was hard to reach people.
Yeah, it was hard to reach people. Maybe we could just send across a few emails here and there, but that was pretty much it. And then that actually started getting a little bigger and better, because something like that wasn't really happening. But then, of course, who doesn't want free training? So in training, networking, get-togethers were getting really popular, and Microsoft took a note of it. And then one fine day, I see that Microsoft has awarded me with the MVP status. I did get to know about MVP a few months back, and I was like, wow, this is a good thing to have, but then that eventually happened. Yeah. And then, of course, after that, till now, till this, at least at this point, while this interview is happening, I'm still an MVP, but yeah, you never know how things go in future.
Yeah, you absolutely deserve for that, so why
Yes.
not?
How about your Microsoft Certified Master certification? It's quite huge challenge to get this, and
all of you have done like good research.
Yeah, absolutely, we are prepared for the
Very well
conversation.
prepared. Okay, wonderful. Yeah, so I got to learn about this MCM. I learned about MCM a little late in my SQL, so-called SQL journey. Because I think this certification was very popular and predominant in the United States, and because I'm not in US and I was in India, this certification was never popular there. And I mean, whatever, fortunately or unfortunately, I had never heard about it. But then, because of my frequent travel to US and working with the product teams also and MVP Summit, somehow I got to know about this certification, that there's something called as MCM. And when I looked into MCM and I saw who MCMs are, and of course there were some really great folks in the community who are so popular and who are so knowledgeable, they are all MCMs. And I learned a little more about the certification process, that there is a knowledge exam, and after that there is a practical exam, and that practical exam is going to be monitored by Redmond live for 5 hours, and then you have to put a camera and whatnot. So all that really fascinated me. But I did speak to a few folks in the community about this certification, that is it really worth it, because it was very expensive. I think it was like some $2,000, $3,000 and whatnot. So it was very expensive. So I was thinking that, and of course that's big money in India. So I was thinking, shall I go for it? But then,
is it worth it?
Is it worth it? Because There was no MCM in India. I think there were one or two folks, but they worked for Microsoft, and out of those folks who worked for Microsoft also moved to Redmond. So there was literally, in a way, a vacuum. There was no MCM in India. And I was like, wow, there is no MCM in India who is working outside Microsoft.
I can be the first.
Yeah, I can be the first. So that also excited me to some extent. And then I started, and of course I got good feedback from the community about this program, that is it really worth it? Because sometimes many of these exams are more like multiple choice questions, and you just, people read all dumps and whatnot, and they just go and, pass the exam. So I never wanted to do that. But this MCM exam was very different, and yeah, the credibility factor. What I got from the community was that it is very credible and you should go for it. And then I decided to go for it. I started studying for it. I set up a group also because a few people wanted to study along with me. I won't take their names, but they moved out of the group very soon. But I continued studying, and I really prepared hard. I prepared well with all the resources that were there, and I gave the exam. I gave the knowledge exam, and then I passed. And after that, I gave the lab exam, and then I passed in the lab exam, and I got my MCM. So, and then I think that time my program manager for MCM was Bob Taylor, if I remember correctly, and then he put down on the blog about MCM, and and I was very happy. I remember I was informed that I got my MCM credential on 31st December, and I was in Bangalore that time, and my wife and we all celebrated the new year with an MCM.
And MCM, yes.
Yes, so it was
reason to celebrate.
It was wonderful. And I got the very proudly like the first MCM of India outside Microsoft. So it was fantastic.
So how long the preparation took you?
So I just because there was so much work that was always going on, I did not take a break actually. It's not like I put my work to rest, because the work is giving me my daily living. I can't put it to rest and just study for an exam suddenly. So I was continuing to work, and whatever time I was getting, I did spend extra time in preparing for the MCM exam. So I think I prepared for about 2 years.
Oh, it's still long. Wow.
Yeah, because the amount of time I was able to spend was very little. So every day I would just spend very little, and sometimes a whole week will go by, and I would not study at all. So that's why it was like sporadic and preparation, slowly like a tortoise speed. For 2.5 years I was covering module by module, because Microsoft published a syllabus, right? Like backup restore, indexes and whatnot. So it took that much time, and then I was studying, preparing demos. I was seeing a lot of stuff, and I was like, okay, I think it's enough. Let's go and give the exam. One day I decided, okay, let's go and give the exam.
I'm ready.
That's the best part, because of working so much with SQL Server and then studying on top of it. I never felt I was ready. I was like, enough. Let's go and give the exam, and I just went ahead with the exam. Yeah.
Especially when you're doing a lot of as a professionalist, working and getting the experience. It's basically your work, but you are still learning. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Because you're always learning. You're constantly learning. Every day you will learn something new.
Yeah. So, what is the personal achievement that you are most proud of?
Okay. Personal achievement. I mean, is it work related, or overall?
Both, if you want.
To you.
Yes.
It can be work, it can be personal, it can be both.
I think the touchwood, by God's grace, the personal achievement is that I am still with my family, and I talk to them every day. We still live together. I can spend time with my parents and with my kids. I think that's the biggest achievement above everything else.
How many kids do you have?
2 kids.
2 kids.
Yeah. My son is 7 years old, and my daughter is 4 years old.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wonderful age.
Yes.
What hints would you give to young people that started to work on the market, on the IT market? So they are just graduated, and then they would like to start working with SQL Server. Okay, so
first I will young folks who are just graduating or about to graduate, it's not that they should choose working with a product. SQL Server, end of the day, is a relational database software, so it's a product. they should focus on building careers, what they love doing the most. Many young folks, and when I say young people, I'm of course keeping the India perspective in mind. When they think about jobs and when they think about careers, they always go by which job or which career is going to pay me the most. Shall I be a data scientist? Is that going to pay me the most? Shall I be a developer and then I can move all the way and become an architect and project manager? Is that going to pay me a lot? I would advise them not to run behind which job is going to pay them most, but what they love doing the most. So if they love playing with data, then they should pursue that. If let's say things like machine learning algorithms excite them, then they should start thinking about building their careers in that path. Because there is a saying: if you make your hobby as your profession, you're most likely to succeed. So you take examples of leading sportsmen, Roger Federer, or in cricket, you take name of Sachin Tendulkar. So they pursued their hobbies and converted it into profession. So that's
you have that kind of passion,
Yes, absolutely.
You can feel it,
Absolutely.
So then you are happy with your work and everything's going
because
faster.
because then you enjoy what you're doing, and you're not just doing that for the sake of doing a job. Because when you start doing something just because it's a job and you have to do it, then you wouldn't enjoy and you wouldn't really be very successful, at least in the long run.
What do you think about Microsoft certification program? Because it changed recently. So from the typical exams where you have 4 answers and then you're just selecting one into role-based certification.
I think it's a good change that Microsoft has done. So I got to know about this change just now when you told me, because Microsoft certifications were something that I left long back. I think my last certification was in 2001, and in 2000 I did MCDBA and then MCSD.NET. With after that I have never done any Microsoft certification. Of course, MCM was different, but then it was a different category altogether. So if they have done this change, it's very good, because those MCQs, right, multiple choice question format, wasn't really taking a candidate anywhere. And as we know, the way the industry is, how people used to send proxies to do the exams, and the internet was flooded with brain dumps and cheat sheets and whatnot, and people just used to have all these paper certificates. You just call them paper certificates. So you would actually see a guy with 10 to 12 different Microsoft certifications, but when he sits down for an interview, he just doesn't really know anything. And then you realize, so it's good that Microsoft has changed that and made the exam more role-based, so that you could test practical skills of the candidate. So I think that's a great move.
So let's talk a little bit about Azure cloud and etc. So what do you think about the current trend of migration to cloud, or is going to replace SQL Server on premise or not?
No, I don't think so. Azure cloud would replace SQL Server. I would say it will complement SQL Server. So going forward, you might see more hybrid deployments. But that notion that SQL Server will go away or on-prem will go away, that's not going to happen. At least I don't see that in near future. But hybrid is a reality that we are seeing, where companies are looking at new projects being deployed on cloud. Critical data is on-prem, but then some portion of data is moving onto the cloud, and there are a lot of these scenarios and use cases. I think that is a reality. And cloud has its own advantages. It also has disadvantages. It's not that it's always a rosy picture out there. Companies have suffered, they have burned their fingers. We see cloud is very cost effective, but sometimes we see that it is 5 times more expensive than what it could have been on-prem. So those realities are there, and companies and vendors like Microsoft or Amazon, they're fighting it out to see how it can benefit every entity.
What do you think about the role of DBA, of database administrators, within this hybrid environment? So is the role of DBA changing?
Of course, the role of DBA is changing, and that's for good, because DBA was only managing, let's say, on-prem SQL servers, and in most customers that I worked with, DBAs were there were of course a few cases where DBAs were like so hardcore with only SQL Server, but then with most companies I was seeing DBAs are managing SQL Server as well as a bit of Windows infrastructure. But with the advent of cloud, we are seeing that now they are managing these deployments on the cloud. They're managing their Azure accounts and credentials and their SQL deployments in the cloud. So that's an expansion and extension to their skill set. And this has to happen, and it is happening very naturally and gradually. I think DBA should be more open to expand their skill set rather than to really put so-called a no-show to this change. That no, I am a SQL Server DBA and I want to remain that. No, that the attitude should be that you have to move forward with the trend.
Till which point do you automate your environments? So, are you a fan of the automation or?
Yes, of course, automation is about improving productivity. So it's not that about being a fan or not being a fan. I think it is more about the need of organizations. Large organizations with, let's say dozens and hundreds of deployments, they really cannot survive without automation. Think about installing, think about patching, right? Think about taking multiple backups of databases across hundreds of servers. Without automation, it's just humanly impossible to achieve that kind of resilience and consistency.
So one step forward, do you rely on automatic features like plan correction from query store? So it's still related to automation.
Yeah, so at this point, maybe I am just slightly not up to date with using those features right now, because I am still working with many customers who are in slightly older versions or the current versions like 2012, 14, etc. We have done a few POCs where we just try to see how new versions behave, etc. But maybe I need to have a little more experience and see real world usage of that. But yeah, these, from what I hear from the community, that these features are very promising. So hopefully they'll definitely do good. I have my faith in the SQL team. They're bringing all these good features, so I'm sure they're doing that with due diligence, and of course they're very customer focused, which is a great thing about the product team. They're so customer focused, so everything that they're doing in the product is based on customers' feedback.
For those customers that you are working with, are they looking for migration to Azure, or maybe how many of them looking for that kind of activities by percentage?
So I can put this way, 15, let's say 20% approximately are looking for immediate migrations, in sense that they definitely want some portion of data to go on cloud. So they're immediately ready to do something.
So in some portion, you mean the hybrid
scenario. I have no customer who says, right now I have no customer who says, no, I want to shut down my on-prem and I just want to go to cloud. I have no one who has ever told me that, and I don't have any customer in that category. So we have, if percentage is what you're looking for, then we have 20% who are ready to migrate now. In sense, migrate means the hybrid model. I could say that about 30 to 40% are customers who are thinking about doing something in cloud. They are maybe doing POCs, or they are still deciding how they want their roadmap and their investments for the next year or so. And then the remaining are still dormant. And there may be government institutions where things move very, very slow. The adoption is very slow. So there are industries like that. So they're dormant. So they are just running with what they have. And they're not they just know that there is something called cloud, but what it is and how it works and things like that, they just don't know.
You have mentioned that you are learning every day. So what you have learned recently that was really interesting for you?
The most recent thing that I learned is that, so we are doing this in my demos. I was doing this table valued parameters, and there's with table valued parameters, when there are no statistics or indexes, with TVPs and TVFs, so the cardinality estimator will always show you an estimated number of rows as 1. But then I was trying to play around with recompile, and I learned that with recompile you will still get some number, and in the new cardinality estimator the estimation is 100, not 1. So yeah, these were a few new things that I just learned about when I was doing more research with the new cardinality estimator. That happened in recent pre-cons. Yeah.
Do you have any learning list of the items that you would like to learn in the future?
Yes, my in a summarized way, my learning list is, of course, to really go deep with some of the new features of SQL Server in the performance space, query store, adaptive query processing, intelligent query processing, and all of that. I have an overview of that because I've not dived very deep into it, and my diving deep is of different level altogether. So I want to spend quite a bit of time there, with those things, and upgrade myself there.
Okay. You have mentioned that not many of your clients are ready for the cloud, but what do you think about the cloud first, cloud only approach?
So cloud first only approach I think is a statement that comes from Microsoft, from the product teams, because whenever they're working on a new feature or designing something new, they think about cloud first. I think it's good that because they see that future is going towards cloud. So I mean, of course, when you know that that's what the target is, then you will always keep that in mind. So I have nothing to criticize that approach. I think it's good, but I think they should not forget the on-prem factor also, and I think it should be a balance of both. Yeah.
Which part of your work is the hardest?
Which part of the work is hardest?
Is it traveling? Is it delivering the workshops? Is it
preparing for a workshop or
even something else?
Nothing is so hard as such.
No, really, nothing. Maybe something else.
Yeah, maybe something else. I think the hardest part here is when too many things happen at the same time, because I have a team back in Calcutta, I have a team back in Bangalore, and we're doing community events also, and I'm traveling, I'm doing conference sessions also. Then there is a masterclass coming up in March, we have to do some work for that also. Then there is some content recording going on. So when too many things happen, and then we are hiring new team members into our team. So when so many things pile up and are happening parallelly, then it gets a bit difficult to manage and coordinate. Yeah,
exactly. So also you need to manage your teams. Yeah.
Yes.
One team or more teams? You mentioned at least two teams. Yeah.
So one team is in Calcutta, our Calcutta office, and the other team is in Bangalore, the Bangalore office. So there are two teams there because we have two offices. So yeah, I manage these both teams.
How many members your teams count?
My current SQLMaestros unit has about 20 team members.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Okay, Amit, thank you very much for being thank you very much for being guest of this podcast.
Thank you.
It was really a pleasure to have you here.
No, thank you very much for hosting me and inviting me for this interview. It took me by surprise, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and you made it so real. That's the amazing part of it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. The very last question is about where we can find you, or where the listeners can find you. Twitter, website, could you?
So of course, just like anyone else, all channels are open. There's Twitter, _Bansal. That's the Twitter handle. They're on LinkedIn as well. And what else? Of course, there's I'm on Facebook, or probably the best is you go to Google, type Amit Bansal, and I'll show up.
In the first place, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you very much again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, listening to this podcast, and time spent jointly. You can find this podcast on the website SQLplayer.net. Share this episode if you like it, and let us know if you want to hear a specific person from the SQL community, or maybe about an interesting topic of technology.